Welcome to another episode of the MMA Lock-Cast. I'm your host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on Twitter at MMALOTN. This week we're going over UFC 240, which goes down in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, headlined by Canada's own, I'm going to call it Canada's own, Max Holloway, and he's going up against Frankie Edgar, who may not deserve a title shot in most people's eyes, but this is a fight that should have happened a long time ago, and I'm fine to see it regardless. Just another name for Max Holloway to potentially get under his belt. And then it's also co-headlined by Cris Cyborg after her devastating loss to Amanda Nunes. She's going up against Felicia Spencer, who has pretty much just rose to contendership after a win over Megan Anderson. Regardless, though, we're going to go over the casuals first with my man Big Rob. What's going on?
Yay.
All right, before we get into what happened this past weekend, I'm going to actually show you something. So there's a boxer named Dudashev, I believe his name is, Maxim Dudashev, that just fought this past weekend. He was getting beat the fuck up for roughly 11 rounds. And this is right before the last round. This is him going back into his corner with, I believe his coach's name is Buddy McGirt.
Okay.
But yeah, just listen to this.
Dirt McGirt. Okay.
He's even going to his Russian coach to convince him.
They're asking him to give up?
Yeah. They're saying, I want to throw in the towel. I want to stop this fight in between rounds.
Oh.
So basically, like I said, I prefaced this with the guy went 11 rounds and took an absolute beating. It looked really bad. I couldn't really find the clips of his actual
That's okay.
beatdown, but yeah, he got really fucked up, and then eventually it's kind of looked down on for some reason, not to be that macho man of being oh, I gave up on a fight in between rounds and all that shit, right? Sometimes coaches try to really motivate their fighters to go back into a fight as well.
Okay.
We've seen that with Raquel Pennington and Amanda Nunes. This girl got beat on for 4 rounds. And as soon as she sat down, as soon as she sat down on her stool, she looked over at the coach and she's like, I'm done. I can't. I'm done.
Okay.
And then the coach convinced her to go back in there. Oh, you don't want to walk out like this. This is your title shot. You want to, this is your moment. You should go in there. And she was getting beat the fuck up. She was getting beat up pretty bad. And then halfway through the next round, she just got TKO'd. It was pretty bad. But people are really applauding this coach for saying, dude, this is enough. You're still young. You got to get just give this one up. You're getting outclassed. Why force yourself to take 3 more minutes of damage from this guy that's clearly better than you?
Yeah.
Right?
Because if he continues, it could actually potentially damage for future events.
Damage himself. You're 21, 22, however old this kid was. I think max he was 23 maximum. But to take repetitive damage that, especially in one fight, right? You've already been dropped, you've already been concussed. You're more than concussed at this point.
This is new to me because every other fight I've ever seen, and has always been you fight until you fall down. Right?
Yes.
And this is
good from a strategy. Yeah, this is an accumulative beating, right?
Oh, yeah.
11 rounds. That's 11 times 3, 33 minutes of just absolute...
Just getting
all the shot, most of the significant shots were to the head too.
Yeah.
Right? That's one thing about boxing. They have 2 targets, the body and the head.
Yeah.
And more often than not, they're going for the head because they want to knock the guy out, right?
Yeah.
So if the guy doesn't go out, you get something like this.
Yeah.
So he actually went into critical condition after emergency brain surgery after that fight.
No way.
Yeah. And this morning he died.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long ago was this fight?
This happened, I believe it was Saturday night.
And did he give up or did he keep playing?
The coach, this is done. They stopped the fight.
And then, so they stopped the fight. And then how long ago did he die after?
So I believe he died this morning. So from Saturday, let's confirm this though. I don't want to talk shit. Lost in the shuffle for this reason. Busy period of combat sports was a very serious incident that occurred on Friday night. So Friday night, and then when did he actually go into it? He absorbed over 300 punches.
See, this is what I don't understand. How come?
Yeah.
How come he died, but other people get beat up a lot and they don't?
This is just like, I don't know. This is more of those like freak situations, right? Like I know there was one other time that I know for sure some guy died from boxing. I'm sure there's been plenty more, but the other one that comes to mind is the guy actually from Alberta. He was an MMA fighter. He was actually in the UFC, and then he transitioned over to boxing.
Okay.
And then within, I think it was like a 6 month to a year period,
Yeah,
he got knocked out a lot. Like let me confirm that number too. But he
Okay.
got knocked out a lot, and then he took a boxing fight against this just fucking monster.
Okay.
Here, you know, I can even show you the fucking the clip right here.
Now, is it possible this guy died just because he got more hits than people get it normally in a fight?
The guy that we initially talked about?
Right.
Yeah, I would say that for sure. So this guy, let's see, from August 29th, 2015, he got knocked out 4 times. The most recent being July 15th, 2016, and then June 16th, 2017. So wait, July 15th, 2016. What the fuck?
So
That doesn't make sense.
So it could be within how many shots you get within a certain period of time. It's like for example, cigarettes, right? If you smoke 100 cigarettes over 100 days, you're not gonna die. But if you smoke 100 cigarettes back to back,
And like,
you're
yeah,
gonna die.
you might fuck yourself up for sure.
No, there's people who've died. Like, yeah, I'm serious.
Just in one
because
day, just fucking.
they smoked 100 cigarettes in one day. It was like a
damn.
dare, and they died. Like,
That's so dumb.
yeah.
I'm not sure. There's something wrong with the dates on this because, oh, actually, you know what? It's actually pretty good. So yeah, he got knocked out in December of 2016, and then he got knocked out in June 16 on June 16, 2017, and died from that.
Oof.
So like, I think it was just repetitive, repetitively getting knocked out, and then this guy just fucking death blows him and kills him.
Oh.
It's very sad. So the main thing that I wanted to get to in the casuals aspect of it was like, you much prefer to see coaches tell guys to just give it up. Like,
yeah, especially if they're gonna die.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the coach obviously knew his like he's trained with this guy for quite some time. I'm assuming, and he knows that person.
Yeah.
So when the coach is looking at the person, and he's like, I know this person's done. Let the coach call it off, because I'm sure it's at a point where it's like, you know, it's affecting one's health beyond repair.
Yeah.
So and
fatally. Right?
Imagine this guy did the opposite and said, no, go out another round, and then he died. How
Probably even sooner he would have died.
Yeah.
Like, it's so sad. I did not want to see it actually happen. Like, when I heard about him going into critical condition, I think it was Sunday evening-ish. And then, Monday morning just fucking died. It was just Tuesday. Sorry, this is Tuesday. So Tuesday morning he died. It took a couple days, right?
It was because of what, his brain, it was bleeding?
It was bleeding, severe brain damage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just insane.
It's done.
Like, I can remember one as well where the guy went into ICU, had to go in a medically induced coma, came back, but just like not the same person at all. Can't box anymore.
Oh no.
You know, speech is slurred, all that type of stuff. So
it's awful.
I know it's a tough game that we watch. Like, I'm not so much into boxing as I am into MMA. And we don't see as much of this in MMA, to be honest. Like, I can't think of anybody like major. I believe there was only one MMA related death that I can think of from Asia, where it was due to weight cutting, and we've talked about that before, where guys do drastic weight cuts.
Yeah.
Right. But in terms of like concussive damage, there hasn't really been anybody that I can think of off the top of my head that's had to, go into ICU or go into a medically induced coma or anything like that. So there is a little bit more safety in MMA due to the fact that with boxing, like, if you get knocked down, you get 10 seconds to get back up and get your wits together. All your wits is just fucking holding the gloves in front of your face, holding gloves in front of you, showing that you can kind of even hold them. The refs just check them real quick, and then they're like, all right, get back to it. And then they get knocked down again. So it's the repetitiveness of the concussions happening in boxing, which is much worse than MMA. Whereas, we've seen early stoppages, right? Where we see a guy go down and the fight will just stop.
You'll be done.
So it may look more brutal because you're able to use your elbows, knees, all that shit. But I believe that there is more, harm and risk in boxing.
Question for you.
Go for it.
So you showed me the bare knuckle fight.
Yeah.
Now imagine this fight was bare knuckle. Do you think...
I don't think that it would have been as worse.
Yeah, no? Okay.
No, I think it would have been
probably
because that guy's hands would have been fucked.
That's what I'm getting.
That guy's hands would have been
face
fucked.
too.
Yeah.
People would have been like, no, close off.
From cuts alone, that probably would have been stopped. But the guy who was punching him probably wouldn't have been able to punch him as hard. Again, with bare knuckle boxing, I believe it's 3 2-minute rounds or 5 2-minute rounds or something like that. Whereas with boxing, it's 3-minute rounds. Like this one was 12 rounds. Championship fight, 3.
That's long.
Yeah, 12 3-minute rounds. So, it really depends on... Like, Joe Rogan actually talked about it, how he always believed that mixed martial arts should be done bare knuckle. But after watching bare knuckle boxing, he realizes, like, guys' hands get fucked up really easily. And then the cuts. The cuts are just brutal. I've shown you some pictures where guys look like fucking Chucky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's not good.
It's fucked.
Yeah, especially the hands thing too. I mean, you need that to work.
Yeah, all they allow them to have is just wrist wraps, pretty much, just to like stabilize your hand for being able to punch straight, right? Enough about that, dude. Thanks again for fucking inviting me and my girl out for this past weekend, bro. This awesome. Motherfucker. Let me just tell you guys something. This motherfucker right here does not tell me it's his birthday until I fucking show up to the place. I thought it was just a chill time.
That's all it is, man.
I know, but you don't tell me as we're fucking chilling on a bench and we're chilling on our fucking seats, just smoking a J, drinking a beer, and you're like, yeah, it's my birthday. I'm like, fuck you, man. Fuck you. You're a bitch for fucking holding out on me like that. I brought some tandoori chicken. I hope you enjoy that shit.
That was amazing, dude.
You had some leftovers. I hope you got to cook some up with your friends afterwards. Good. Oh, fuck yeah. No, we had a great time, man. This guy had a beautiful fucking setup. Great setup for glitch as well, where his dog could fucking roam around pretty much the entire campsite, not have to worry about him getting lost. And then a lakefront pretty much view site for your camping, where you got your boat. I'm too pussy to go out on the boat. I've told him
one day, bro. One day we'll get you like a few life jackets,
and a bigger boat. Like I would feel. I'm not gonna lie, I would feel a little bit more comfortable if it was a bigger boat. But I'm still such a pussy to go out on the water, man.
And shallow, maybe up to the waist.
Maybe. I like the freedom and like the wild exploration things that you can do, or like he went to like the other side of the fucking lake and found some like little island that some guy was making some house on or some shit like that. But
so
like
freaky.
Just to go that deep into nature and off the beaten path and all that type of stuff, I really enjoy that stuff, and I believe he's going out a couple more times this summer, so I might fucking tag along one more time at least.
Maybe we'll do a podcast.
We had teased doing like a fucking camping edition Lock-Cast or something. So maybe next time we might shoot this from his RV or a fucking tent or some shit like that. It was a great fucking setup. I really enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, man.
It was so fucking fun. Anything else you want to fucking touch on, man? I love doing the casuals aspect. I don't like just fucking sticking to like. It's good for the conversations we can get out of some of these MMA related things. But I just want to get off topic sometimes and just talk some shit. I tweeted earlier today. I don't feel like I've ever been more comfortable behind the mic than I do now. Like before, I don't know if you can see it, but like I just feel way more comfortable, and I just don't, I just kind of let it flow now. It's just before I wanted to just be very stringent and straight for it. Now I'm just like, you know what? I know what I'm talking about. Let's go from fight to fight, smooth transitions, casuals as well. It's just fucking, we don't have no producers fucking saying you have to do this. There's no suits here. Yeah, we're just fucking having fun. Big Rob just chilling on a beer, glitches on his fucking lap.
Passed out.
Yeah, exactly. No, I fucking enjoy it, man. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, Big Rob, as always. Let's fucking get into some MMA talk, because I'm sure that's what the fuck you guys are here for. But I know some of y'all like me, and you like Rob, and you like hearing about our times and days and shit, and all that shit. Before we crack into UFC 240, I just want to quickly go over my last event, which was UFC San Antonio. It was a very unfortunate event on my end. Kind of took of a, it was tough. It was tough. Let's just put it like that. So let's go over these bets real quick. Fuck it. I'm not even going to fucking acknowledge the haters. Fuck you guys. So let's just kick off from the bottom of it. I had Alexei Oleinik wins by submission plus 210. I took a 0.5 unit shot on it, strictly due to the fact that, Walt Harris is kind of unreliable. It seems like he's really coming into his own now. So, he should beat a guy like Alexei Oleinik. I wasn't too... Apologies, something's coming up. Regardless, I didn't feel like he he was just too unreliable in my opinion. He should have won that fight. I forgot roughly around where he was, maybe minus 170 ish. Decent bet at those odds, I believe, especially with what he came out with. But last time I took the Olynyk win by sub prop, it hit against Marc-Andre, who I feel like is a harder hitter. Maybe not as fast and athletic as the Walt Harris. But that was just a bad call on my point, but I would take the 0.5 unit shot on Olynyk again. This is heavyweights, pretty much. Next up, I had a parlay of Ben Rothwell and Klitz and Abreu. Very weird reaction from Sam Alvey thinking that he lost that, or thinking that he won that fight. I think Abreu easily won that fight, no doubt about it. And then Ben Rothwell, I kind of alluded to it last week during that podcast, saying that sometimes he's just a little bit too inactive. But I wasn't expecting to see that type of Andre Arlovski to come out. He threw a lot in that first round. I believe it was Dominic Cruz that just kept saying, I can't remember the last time I saw him throw these many strikes in the first round alone. And I thought that he was going to slow down a little bit, but he didn't. He just kept that pressure on. He kept throwing those punches, and he was just busting up Ben Rothwell's face. So bad look on my part to take that Ben Rothwell parlay. Or to add Ben Rothwell to the parlay. Minus 181 is a little bit high for that too. So, we'll see how much Arlovski can still hang around at 40 years old. But that was minus 1.5 units there. Next up, I had my lock of the night parlay, which was fight doesn't go to decision for Greg Hardy and Juan Adams. Kind of what we thought would happen would be a first round finish. Very unfortunate for Juan Adams to take that L the way that he did, especially after all the shit that he talked. And then I also had Domingo Parlate. I'm not going to full out call this a robbery. That second round was really close, and it didn't look good for me, at least in terms of the judges, with Parlate, ending the round on his back, with Colares, throwing some heavy strikes. Unfortunate for him. He really showed up in that third round, though. Unfortunately, too little, too late. UFC debut fucking strikes me again. I truly believe that Parlate has a good future ahead of him, and this probably could have done with the layoff that he was on too, and I believe he had an injury going, it was an injury that kept him out for at least a year or so. So, that's something that I need to really consider when looking at these guys, especially when they're being such heavy favorites. But, after I taped that fight, I was like, this guy is a fucking shoe-in. This guy should be the lock of the night. And I was really looking to parlay him but play him straight even at minus 275. I got him at minus 331 in that parlay. It just seemed like he was not going to go down to that minus 275 range, so I had to pull that trigger with a bet that I felt like was, more than deserving of a lock of the night spot, which was the fight doesn't go to decision between Greg Hardy and Juan Adams. The last three bets I had, Roxanne Modafferi had a 1 unit dog shot on her at plus 130 against Jennifer Maia. Very surprised that she wasn't even able to land that one takedown and control Jennifer Maia. So good work by Jennifer Maia to keep this fight on the feet. Makes you wonder how bad Antonina Shevchenko's takedown defense actually is. So next up, I had another L on Rafael Dos Anjos. I had 2 units on him at plus 116. I always believe that Dos Anjos is worth the plus money shot against guys that aren't Colby Covington or Kamaru Usman. And I thought that he would be able to beat a guy like Leon Edwards, but Edwards really came out there and fucking put it on him, man. Great elbows. I thought that he had a lot of, he showed a lot of composure and really good fight IQ in there, especially like kind of throwing Dos Anjos off with that first round takedown, and then pretty much piecing him up after that. That cut over, I believe it was his right eye for RDA was a big detriment as well. But big ups to Leon Edwards. I'm kind of a believer now. I'll see if I'll bet him moving forward, but like he's definitely growing as a fighter, and to have a guy like Rafael Dos Anjos under your belt is huge. So I'm really I'm happy for him in terms of us getting a new like welterweight contenderish type of guy, and again having a big win over RDA is very impressive. And then lastly, pretty much my only bet that hit of the night, it was very discouraging, like I said. But regardless, I had 1.5 units on Raquel Pennington at plus 138. I knew this was going to be a close fight against Aldana, and you got to take the dog shot at that point. Aldana likes to move a lot, strike from range, and sometimes that may not look good on the judges' scorecards. And Raquel Pennington really has that Rocky vibe about her, where she likes to pressure forward, she likes to come forward. She may not have the most crisp and clean striking techniques, but she does have enough of that and toughness as well. Irene Aldana is no Amanda Nunes or fucking fucking Jermaine Durand when it comes to striking. She's a great striker, and again, like, she does really good at range, but she doesn't really have the power behind her hands. It was a really close fight against Betts Correia, and I thought, it's more than enough ammo for me to bet a girl like Raquel Pennington against Irene Aldana in the spot. So, that was the only win of the fight or the night in terms of cashing bets. Yeah, just gotta fucking come back stronger. I feel like I have some good reads on the card that's upcoming, which is UFC 240. And I haven't played anything as of yet in terms of as of this recording, but I truly believe that there's a lot of good spots on this card, and I'll definitely break that down for you guys. Now, in terms of quick thoughts about UFC 240, it's about time that Frankie Edgar finally gets that shot at Max Holloway. If you guys remember, he was supposed to fight him at UFC 222. I believe it was Holloway that got hurt, and then Brian Ortega stepped in and just completely ruined Frankie Edgar. Luckily for Edgar, all he had to do was come back and win one fight against Cub Swanson and eventually wait out long enough for Max Holloway to do whatever the fuck he was doing to get a title shot. So I'm not too mad about Frankie Edgar getting a title shot. I believe he deserves it, and again, it's just a Max Holloway type of thing where this is something for his legacy. So if he's able to get a guy like Frankie Edgar under his belt, I think it does a lot for him, and it's a good bounce back win for him too if he can get past Edgar, especially coming off that decision loss to Dustin Poirier and losing the champ, or the chance at being champ slash interim champ. Champ, interim champ. We're not doing that champ shit. But yeah, Dustin Poirier took that fight. Chris Cyborg's coming back after that stupid performance against Amanda Nunes. Jeff Neal, love that guy. think he has plenty of potential. He comes up against Nico Price, who's been looking decent in his own. Arman Tsarukyan, another guy that I'm very excited about against Olivier Aubin-Mercier. So it's a good test for him against a vet of the UFC. Christoph Jotko against Marc-Andre Barriault, great fight. Viviane Araujo, I love this chick. I think she's going to be a huge problem for people at that 125 division. She's going up against Alexis Davis. Hakeem Dawodu, great striker. Should be a fun fight against Yoshinori Horie. Return of Gavin Tucker. Alexandre Pantoja against Deiveson Figueiredo. Great fight there. Gillian Robertson against Sarah Frota, good fight. That should probably end in a finish. Return of Erik Koch. And then debuts of Giacomo, Lemos, and Tanner Boser. Boser. So yeah, decent card. It's a Edmonton card, so it's unfortunate that they didn't stack it a little bit more. The top three fights should be absolute barn burners and fun fights. And then you have a couple other fights just sprinkled out throughout it. I think Pantoja against Figueiredo should be on the pay-per-view part of it, and probably even Gillian Robertson against Sarah Frota due to the sheer fact of the possible entertainment that both of those fights could have in them. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait for the card. So let's just get right the fuck into it and start breaking this bitch down. First up, we have Giacomo Lemos versus Tanner Boser. Starting off with Lemos, he's been fighting a lot of these Korean guys in his last two fights. A lot. He fought two Korean guys in his last two fights over there in Korea, and just doctor stoppaged one of them, and then ground and pounded the next one. Both in the second round. The thing is, like, look at the records of these guys do. 18, 12, and 1 for the first guy that he beat in over there in Korea, and then 12 and 11 on the next guy. Some of these guys look like they should not even be fighting. He's just like this big juice head monkey guy that looks like he just likes to throw bombs. He tries to find that head, find that chin, and put you out. Not much else other than that. He's a strong guy, but I think if fights go longer, he's definitely more and more depleted. I think a guy like Tanner Boser, who has plenty of experience, he's 16-5-1. I think that he has a good opportunity to, stay away from the big shots that Lemos throws. He's not the fastest guy when it comes to throwing those bombs either. But I think that Tanner is going to be able to outwork him, evade the big shots, and then maybe even finish this later in the fight, probably late second round, early third round. I think that, his experience factor, cardio, the fact that he's been able to go to the decision plenty of times, just shows his endurance. He took some big shots against Zaur Gadzibabayev. I just love trying to pronounce these guys' names, but he showed great toughness in that fight. I haven't been able to find anything from his unified days. I know a lot of people have been saying that unified promoter doesn't like having his videos on online at all, which is fucking stupid. So most of the footage we've had to look at is his M1 fights and his ACB fights. But his last fight, he won by leg kick in round 4. Unfortunately, I have no video of that, so I can't, see that. He fought a guy that was 13-10. I think it's just, he was coming off a draw. He was coming off a loss before that, and he just needed to get another victory. And luckily for him, UFC was coming to Edmonton. He's grizzled enough, and they have a decent matchup for him here. So I think that he definitely will get the win here. Maybe, again, later into the fight, I don't think that there's too much in terms of a threat from Lemos, other than the fact that if he lands one of those bombs. So it's hard to bet a guy that only has that kind of one way to win this fight. And Boser sitting roughly around -170 or so. I want to see where that line goes. If he hits -150, so I might throw a little bit on him, just due to the fact that Lemos I don't think is that good. But again, Boser's not a world beater either, but he has cardio experience. And toughness going from, whereas Lemos, in my opinion, just has heavy hands and maybe a first round in him, if that. But I'm going to take Boser by third round TKO. Next up, we got Kyle Stewart. Whoop. There we go. We got Kyle Stewart against Erik Koch. Kyle Stewart, surprised he's in the UFC. He won. He lost to James Nakashima, then beat Braden Smith, and then got the call up to the UFC somehow. He did fight on the Contender Series way back in 2017. Won that fight, unfortunately. He dropped Jason Jackson. Jason Jackson landed awkwardly on his ankle, and then he tried. Luckily for Jackson, the rest of that round was kind of spent on the ground. And then in that second round, when he came out 20 seconds into it, his ankle just completely gave out, and unfortunately had to stop the fight. So an unfortunate win for Kyle Stewart there, due to the fact that you want to win impressively, and you want to get that contract. But unfortunately, he didn't get the contract. He went out there and fought 4 more times, going 3-1, and then ran into Chance Rencountre in his UFC debut and lost via rear naked choke. I'm not the most impressed with this guy. He doesn't have the greatest striking. He's kind of just an average fighter, and I think it's a great way for Erik Koch to get it back into the game, and just get his feet wet once again. He hasn't fought since January of 2018, so it's been a long layoff for him. He was scheduled to fight Dwight Grant way back in December. That didn't come to fruition, and now here he is in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, going up against Kyle Stewart. I think that Koch is better everywhere. Let's just be honest. I think that he's the better striker. I think that he has better submissions. I believe that him working his game on the feet, and he's just been looking fucking shredded, man. I don't know if you guys have been watching him on Instagram or seeing any of his posts, but man, the guy looks in really good shape. And I know he's been off for a while, so that's kind of what's keeping me away from this. But I think he looks good, man. He looks really. Let's see what the odds are. It's slightly out of pick'em, so I wouldn't even mind a small shot actually at Erik Koch, especially if you can get plus money. I think he wins this fight against Kyle Stewart. The layoff kind of concerns me. It's approaching a year and a half that he's been off, but I just don't think that Kyle Stewart is that great. So if you want to look past, what, actually, I did look into some of the numbers in terms of guys or girls who haven't fought in longer than a year, how that kind of affects them on their way back. And I think I got through about the last 6 or 7 UFC events, and there was it was pretty much dead even in terms of people who have won after a year off and people who have lost after a year off. I think it was like 7 wins and then 8 losses or something like that. So it's kind of inconclusive. So I don't really want to lean on that too much in terms of, time off is bad for people or time off is good for people. You got to focus on the matchups themselves. There may have been a lot of things that Erik Koch has been able to accumulate during his time off, so we'll see if he comes back a different fighter or not. But I think that knowing what we know about both fighters, I got to give Koch the edge here, and I think the line is just close due to the fact that Koch has been off for so long, so maybe taking advantage of that is the way to go here. So I might play Koch. I got to look into it, but I truly think he's the better fighter here, and he should win with his stand-up. I think he could finish Kyle Stewart as well, so that's something that you guys should definitely look into, but I might bet Erik Koch later in this week. All right, let's move on. We got Gillian Robertson versus Sarah Frota. This is a fight that I'm pretty excited for. That's really that's really weird to hear. I know for a lot of people due to the fact that women's MMA. I'm not saying it's bad, but sometimes these girls really bring it. And Gillian Robertson is definitely one of those chicks, and she's going up against a fucking Thiago Silva of women's MMA and Sarah Frota. But Gillian Robertson, she makes no bones about it. She's even claimed it in a very recent interview that she just did, saying that she likes to go over for submissions over position, whereas most jiu-jitsu guys, they'll probably tell you the other way. Go for the position over the submission and then see where you land yourself and try to set up a submission off of that. Gillian Robertson, you've seen in the Veronica Macedo fight, in other fights as well, she's given up a lot of very dominant positions to go for arms, to go for chokes, to go for any type of submission, and she uses them very well for sweeps as well too. I saw a very good sweep that she did against Veronica Macedo, where she turned it from an armbar into a full mount and then just stuck to her. I believe that was at the ending of the first round, so she wasn't able to get the tap there, but then she quickly gets, or not quickly, but she gets the tap in round 2, 3 minutes and 27 seconds into that round via rear naked choke. I think that Sarah Frota is going to have a little bit more to put up against Gillian Robertson than a girl like Veronica Macedo. Sarah Frota, she does a really good job at maintaining her distance and striking from a distance. She has a 69-inch reach advantage. I want to see how much Gillian Robertson has before I continue with this thought. 69-inch to 66-inch, and then 5'2" against 5'6". So Frota is definitely going to be the bigger girl out there. I believe that she will land. I will absolutely give her the advantage on the feet. I don't think that Robertson's stand-up is as good as Frota's, and I think that Frota is going to be able to land some big shots on her. I think that one thing that's very one line that might be very interesting here is the fight doesn't go to decision. Let me confirm that before I talk out of my ass, and the odds makers are just ahead of us already. So minus 145 for the fight doesn't go to decision. I like those, man. It seems like it opened up at minus 210, got up to plus 115, and now it's at minus 165. That's weird. I guess it just moved down to minus 165. So I definitely like that. I believe I hit on that fight doesn't go to decision on Veronica Macedo and Gillian Robertson, and I like that here too, man. Sarah Frota is a beast on the feet. She throws a lot of heat. She's only ever gone to a decision 1, 2, 3 times, including the last time she fought in the UFC against Olivier Hanata Souza. Oop, that was a burp. Don't drink, Big Marley. That was a burp. So far, I'm holding it up. I do feel a fucking yawn coming, but I'm fighting that shit with all my power right now. But regardless, Gillian Robertson, Sarah Frota, tough to go. I think that Robertson has the edge on the ground. I don't know if I can really trust her to get this fight to the ground. And Frota has shown really good submission defense, especially against Olivier Hanata Souza. But I think that Gillian Robertson just goes for these submissions a lot harder than a girl like Hanata Souza. And she said it herself, I like to go submission over position, and that might, end up in a submission for her. But I think that if she continuously tries being aggressive for submissions, Frota, if she continuously gets out of them, she's going to pound on Robertson when she gets on top. And then even if the fight's on the feet, I think that Frota is going to be able to light her up on the feet too. So it's hard for me to choose a side here because I love Robertson's grappling and her knack for going for submissions. But it's tough to go against a girl like Sarah Frota. And even in that fight, her Contender Series fight, that was one of the crazier knockout finishes I've ever seen from a woman. But with Gillian Robertson here, I'm not going to bet a side here. In terms of picking, I'm going to go with... it's so hard. You know what? I'm going to go with Robertson. You guys know I like to go with grapplers over strikers, but it's hard for me to be 100% convinced that Gillian Robertson is going to be able to get this fight to the ground. Hanata Souza definitely got Frota to the ground, but there's a huge size discrepancy here between Frota and Robertson. Another thing we need to keep an eye on is if Frota is going to be able to actually make weight this time. She missed weight by 7 pounds last time around. I believe that was that. that must have been at 115 actually. Yeah, that was at 115, and this fight's at 125. So hopefully it's not an issue here, but she is still the much bigger fighter here against Robertson. So if Robertson can, use her technique, out muscle Frota and get her to the ground, she should be able to find a submission. But if this stays on the feet, I think regardless, one way or another, this fight's not going to a decision, and you guys might see that as one of my main bets. But just for the sake of the podcast, I'm going to go with Gillian Robertson via submission, maybe second round. All right, let's move on. We got Alexandre Pantoja versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Fucking insane fight. I think this is a great fight for the flyweight division. These guys are at the top of their weight classes pretty much, or their weight class. Deiveson Figueiredo, unfortunately, coming off a loss to Jose Formiga, who was pretty much put into a number one contender fight against Joseph Benavidez. So it's tough to really take too much away from Figueiredo against a guy who's as good as Formiga. In this fight against Alexandre Pantoja, I think it's going to be closer than that fight. Figueiredo going off at a very small underdog price right now at plus 108 is the best I see. At plus 105 at 5 times, and then return on Pantoja minus 125ish. Pantoja's striking is getting really better. I think that Figueiredo is going to be the stronger fighter here. I believe also that Figueiredo might be able to kind of nullify the jiu-jitsu of Pantoja. He was able to stay out of all the submissions that Formiga was throwing his way. I believe that Formiga is the better jiu-jitsu player than Pantoja as well. But Pantoja continues to make improvements. So he might be able to make a big step up here or make a big improvement here and beat a guy like Deiveson Figueiredo. But I think that it's truly a dog or pass situation, stealing fucking Cody Safdik's and Paul Shagnessi's term. But it's a dog or pass situation here. I really like Figueiredo. I don't. But again, Pantoja continues to surprise me every time out. I think this is a fight that I may stay away from, but I want to see if Figueiredo even becomes a bigger dog, because again, I think he has a strength advantage. I think that he throws with better power or more power, and I think that he's a good enough jiu-jitsu player to stay out of any submissions that Pantoja throws at him. Will he be able to win the grappling positions and the scrambles? I think he's going to be competitive, but Pantoja, again, getting better at all times. So very close fight. I'm going to go with the dog here. I'm going to go with Figueiredo. I think that he pulls out a decision victory just by, being the stronger guy, being, getting the better of the scrambles, and then just being the heavier puncher too. One knock that I had on Pantoja, in the past was that his gas tank was really not the best, and it would always fail him later in fights. He lost that Dustin Ortiz fight. The Brandon Moreno fight, he came back, wanted a decision, but his next two fights, Olko Sasaki and Woodson Hayes, have only gone and accumulated 5 minutes, so they've both been finishes in the first round, which is great for Pantoja. But when you fight a guy that's harder to put away, like a Deiveson Figueiredo, is it going to be able to hold up for 3 rounds? Are you going to be able to manage your gas tankers properly against a guy who's as strong and as forward pressure-ish as a Figueiredo? Who knows? I would say dog or pass here. Going to see how much bigger of a dog Figueiredo possibly becomes throughout this week, and I might play him, but no guarantees. All right, next up, we got the return of Gavin Tucker against Seungwoo Choi. Starting off with Seungwoo Choi. He hasn't fought since he lost to Movsar Evloev, who I believe is one of the best fighters in that division and is, a top 5 fighter waiting to happen. So no knock on Choi for losing that fight. But with Tucker, he's coming back. Tucker's coming back after a huge layoff. He got absolutely mollywopped by Rick Glenn at UFC 215, which was September 9th of 2017. He was scheduled to fight Andre Sukumtat in October of last year. That didn't come to fruition, and now here he is returning in his home country, not home state or hometown, but his home country. I think this is a fight that's primarily going to play out on the feet. So, a couple things that are kind of keeping me away from betting Gavin Tucker here, who should probably be the better fighter and also should be the favorite, which he is rightfully. So it's a closer line than it was initially, I thought. Wow. He opened up at minus 215, gradually got to minus 160, and now he's at minus 125. So people are definitely getting a little bit more privy to Seungwoo Choi, and for good reason. I think that Gavin Tucker, we don't know how much the layoff, super extended layoff slash damage in that Rick Glenn fight is going to pay on him. But Choi is a banger. He likes to swing on the feet. In that fight, one of his last, I believe it was his second last fight. Oh, nope. It was his, I want to make sure I get this right. It was his second last fight against Jae Woon Kim, where he got rocked and then came back and still won that fight. He likes a barn burner, but I think that Gavin Tucker is a little bit more of a disciplined striker. He moves a lot. He's in and out. He likes attacking the leg. Very good at getting in and out with these punches. Rick Glenn kind of just had his number, being the bigger, taller, rangier guy. He didn't fall for as much as the movement. I think that Gavin Tucker might be able to lull Choi here and actually pull off a decision victory. But it's the layoff again, and also considering his recent beating or his beating to Rick Glenn. Those are just too alarming for me to even bother thinking of betting Gavin here. So possible dog or pass situation. I won't be betting Choi. I just don't think that he's worth betting on. He has an opportunity to get the knockout here, I believe, but I don't trust either guy. But for the picks, I'm going to go with, what's the fight doesn't go to decision on this, actually? No, you know what? I'm not even going to bother looking at that because Gavin Tucker could pull out a decision victory. I'm going to go with, I might actually go with Choi here. Let's see, at 74.5-inch reach, starting at 5'11", and then we got 66-inch reach at 5'7" for Gavin Tucker. I'm going to go with Choi here. I like his striking ability, but he does get caught. It's such a tough fight to pick. I'm definitely not betting it, man. But I'm gonna go with Choi. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. No, I'm going with Tucker. I think that Tucker just plays it really safe. His footwork and movement will definitely always be there, and I think that Choi might get caught looking a little bit too much. And Tucker just rolls away with this beating up the leg in an out darting movement. I'm going with Tucker by decision. All right, next up we got Hakeem Dawodu versus Yoshinori Horie. Starting off with Dawodu, he's coming off a split decision victory over Kyle Bochniak way back in December when he fought in Toronto. We know about him, man. He's a great striker, absolutely beautiful Muay Thai. Unfortunate loss in his first UFC fight against Danny Henry when he got caught in a guillotine choke. But then since then, he's come back and absolutely battered and beaten both Austin Arnett and Kyle Bochniak. Maybe Arnett a little bit more than he did Bochniak, but I love his style. Very aggressive with the striking, very disciplined too. Actually, it's a controlled chaos when he goes out there and strikes. He's getting better at his takedown defense. That's obviously something that he needs to work on. But I don't think that he needs to really worry about it against a guy like Yoshinori Horie here, who is pretty much just looking to stand and bang as well. He did a decent job keeping Messiah Takeda off of him at Pancrase 301. Takeda did get him down a couple times, but he just had nothing for him on the feet. Damn, that guy's record was 14-8-4 going into that fight against Horie. But he was a grizzled vet, really wanted to get the fight to the ground, couldn't keep it there, and then eventually made Takeda had to go out by a great finish by Horie. I'm trying to remember the finish because I just watched it the other day, but it's not really coming to my mind right now. And the Hiroshige Tanaka fight, he got that fight done pretty quickly, a minute and 41 seconds into it, completely put the kid out. He's just a striker. I don't think he has much else other than that. I think Dawodu's the better striker, obviously, and I think this was kind of a tailor-made matchup for him to get a victory in his home province. But minus 400, too big for me. Dawodu obviously wants to keep this fight on the feet, and minus 400 is just a little bit too much for me. I think that he's the better disciplined and better striker, but I don't even know if I feel comfortable putting him as part of a parlay either. So I'm going to go with Dawodu by decision, but I just don't trust him at minus 400. Next up, Alexis Davis versus Viviane Araujo. So Araujo is a girl that I was looking at possibly playing as my lock of the night play. She's sitting around minus 250ish right now. I want to see if there's more money that comes in on Davis, strictly due to her name value. But Araujo, man, I wish I really looked into her before she fought Bernardo. She was a hefty underdog, plus 240, plus 250ish, and then came in there and absolutely mollywopped Talita Bernardo. Yeah, man. Speaking of movement, like Gavin Tucker, this girl moves very well. Hits with a fucking like a shit brick house or brick shit house, brick shit house. She hits like a brick shit house. Great movement. She really likes to work the leg as well. Her leg kicks are very effective, and she's not afraid to take this fight to the ground, especially against a girl like Talita Bernardo, whose jiu-jitsu is really good. But she had absolutely no qualms about taking fights to the ground. She mixes it up very well too, especially against Emi Fujino. That was another fight where she showed off a lot of versatility. And showed that she was ready for the big show, and eventually that call up. She lost to Sarah Frota in April of 2017 via punches in round one. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find the footage for that. I want to see how that happened. Maybe she got caught on the way in or something like that. Frota hits with a lot of power too, so I'm not too surprised about that. But I think that Araujo is going to be a fucking problem at 125 if she ends up staying there. She won the strawweight title for Pancrase before she came to the UFC, and then fought Talita Bernardo at 135 and is now fighting Alexis Davis at 125. She is going to have a disadvantage when it comes to size here. So it's going to be, poignant for Alexis Davis to get this fight to the ground. She's been working on her striking a little bit, but I think that Araujo is going to be too fast for her, too powerful for her. And I think that she could beat up Davis for at least 3 rounds. She might even be able to finish her. She hits with so much fucking power. And I think, her speed is going to be the factor here. Alexis Davis is not going to be able to keep up with it. I think she's just going to get touched up. The Jennifer Maia fight was a perfect, read, or a perfect fight that should give you a read on this fight. Maya's a great striker. She did get taken down in one of those rounds. I believe it was the second one, and held down. I think that Araujo is the better jiu-jitsu player than Maya. I think that she will be able to stay out of bad positions, and I think that anytime Davis goes for any type of submissions, I think that Araujo is good enough to get out of them. Maybe reverse position, but I don't think this fight even hits the ground. I think that Araujo absolutely murks Davis on the feet. Minus 250 is a little bit too high at the moment. I want to see if she gets down to the minus 200 range or so, but I want to go heavy on her. I think that she has a lot of potential, and this Alexis Davis fight is a great name under her belt, but I think that she wins this fight. I want to say by third round TKO. I think she finishes her late. If not, goes away with the decision. But I don't think that Davis will be able to get this fight to the ground and implement her jiu-jitsu enough to pull off a submission victory. So Araujo definitely a favorite, for good reason, but a little bit too high right now, minus 250. But Araujo, official play by decision. All right, next up we got Christophe Jotko against Marc-Andre Barriault. Barriault is coming off a loss to Andrew Sanchez, where it really came down to a third round. The first round Andrew Sanchez definitely took it. Second round Andrew Sanchez was getting hit with a lot of shots. He wasn't able to land takedowns. Andre Barriault was so close to finishing that fight. If that round maybe was extended by another 30, 45, even 45 seconds, I would say, Barriault probably would have got the finish there. But then in that third round, Sanchez dug as deep as you motherfucking could, and I was really happy for that too, because I believe I had Andrew Sanchez as the lock of the night play that night, but he dug really deep and just did not let go of Andre Barriault. He held on for dear life, pretty much. Got a takedown at the beginning of the round, and then pretty much just clinch fucked him against the cage for the rest of the round, and that was enough to win the decision there. But for Barriault, I think he showed a lot of good things in there. Sanchez shows the ability to, not the ability, but the flaw of slowing down And Andre Barriault definitely took advantage of that. But in that third round, he's just a very powerful guy, and he was still able to get Barriault down. In Jotko's last fight, we saw Jotko really show off his takedowns, his ability to mix up his strikes into his takedowns. But I think he was just fighting an undersized guy there. I think he's going to have more trouble, mixing his strikes and getting in on Barriault and getting those takedowns. And I think that a lot of people are really downplaying Barriault's strength and takedown defense due to his loss to Andrew Sanchez. You got to know that Andrew Sanchez is a much better wrestler than Krzysztof Jotko, and I think that Jotko is going to have more issues getting him down. What's the line currently at? Plus 140 as an underdog for Marc-Andre Barriault, minus 160 for Jotko. I might bet Barriault here. I think he's definitely worth at least an underdog shot here. He's a great all-around fighter, throws with a lot of heat. He could definitely still test Krzysztof Jotko's chin, and I think that his takedown defense is good enough to keep this fight on the feet. I don't think that Jotko will get him down, and I think that Barriault is going to also be the stronger guy here. He's very thickly built, and Jotko, is a little bit lankier, a little bit skinnier, but I think that Barriault shows really good strength in his fights. Again, you got to take that fight with Andrew Sanchez with a bit of grain of salt when it comes to the grappling aspect of Marc-Andre Barriault's game, because I believe it's so much further ahead than Jotko's that it might just skew some people's minds, due to the fact that, Barriault got out-grappled in his last fight, and then Jotko out-grappled somebody else in his last fight. I think there might be some recency bias there. So I think that Barriault is definitely a live underdog. I'm definitely going to take a shot on him. I want to see what the line goes, but it looks like it's been getting a little bit worse, plus 143-ish, plus 140. But I like Barriault here. I think he's a great all-around fighter, and I think he gets the victory, plain and simple. I think he outstrike. Well, yeah, I think he shucks off any takedowns that Jotko throws at him, and then maybe even just clinch fucks him himself. I think he's very strong there, and he could definitely take advantage of Jotko there. I think at range, Jotko is obviously the better striker, but I think that once the distance is closer, Andre Barriault is going to be able to land the bigger shots. I wouldn't even be surprised to see him get a finish either. He has 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stoppages in 13 fights. He even fought a big light heavyweight in Todd Stout back in 2017 and won a split decision there by out-grappling him pretty much. But Stout's not really known for being a grappler, but it just kind of shows that he's a strong guy, man. He can go up against these bigger heavyweights. Stranya Gavrilovic is another guy that's a little bit stronger too. So I think he'll have success when it comes to the strength department against Jotko and in the grappling aspect as well. But I think that he's going to be able to grind this fight out, get a decision, and beat Jotko as a very live underdog, so I'm definitely going to look to play him. All right. Next up, we got Olivier Aubin-Mercier versus Arman Tsarukyan. Going into this fight, I was very much on Olivier Aubin-Mercier. I think he's a great all-around fighter. Obviously has the UFC experience behind him now too. He's been in the UFC since, goddamn, 2014, so he has over five and some months worth of experience in the UFC, whereas Arman Tsarukyan is just making his second UFC walk. Very tough test in his first fight against Islam Makhachev. A lot of people were writing off Tsarukyan, and obviously Makhachev won that fight, but should he have been a plus 300 underdog, that fight didn't make it look like it. He's a very strong guy, very physically imposing, great grappler himself as well, and I think that Aubin-Mercier, it's going to be tough for him to win this fight. He got completely out-grappled and outstruck by Gilbert Burns. Not a burp. Not a yawn, just a burp, regardless. Olivier Aubin-Mercier, coming into this, off that fight against Gilbert Burns, where just completely got outclassed in that. It was very weird to watch. I thought Aubin-Mercier was the better overall fighter, but to see Gilbert Burns be so successful with his strikes, obviously, getting the fight to the ground, that's kind of expected with Gilbert Burns, but I was expecting a little bit better of a fight out of Aubin-Mercier. I'm not sure what was going on there, and I believe he's better than what he showed in that Gilbert Burns fight, but I think he has another tough out here against Arman Tsarukyan. Tsarukyan minus 220-ish. Decent favorite. I don't know. I might actually just pass on this fight. I wouldn't be mad at anybody betting Arman roughly around that minus 200 range. But I feel so bad because I really wanted to bet Olivier Aubin-Mercier here, but after running the tape, it's kind of hard. It's almost like I've seen a regression in his talent, and I truly hope that's not the case. I love the guy. He follows me on Twitter. It's great. He's a great guy, but I think he is just so much better than what he's shown in his last two fights. And he has a really tough test here against Tsarukyan, and this could be his last fight in the UFC too. So who knows how much that has a factor into how he's going to play in this fight or come out in this fight. But I'm going to go with Tsarukyan by decision. One thing I will give Olivier Aubin-Mercier is his ability to endure punishment and just have heart and stick the fight out as best as he can. But I'm going to go with Tsarukyan by decision. Next up, Jeff Neal versus Nico Price. Jeff Neal going off roughly around minus 340, which is so fucking juice filled. Against Nico Price, who's plus 280ish right now. I want to say they don't have in the distance odds yet, but the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 230. Sounds about right. This is a very straightforward fight. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. We all know that Jeff Neal, fighting out of Frota MMA, is a brilliant striker, one of the best. So quick. That head kick knockout he had over Frank Camacho was fucking bananas. I remember Joe Rogan was going nuts about that one. And then Bilal Muhammad just methodically picked him apart and put him away. Bilal Muhammad is a very tough fighter as well, even though he got knocked out by Vicente Luque. I think that Jeff Neal is due for a knockout here against Nico Price. Nico Price throws with a lot of heat, has heaters in his fucking hands, but he's a little bit wild. Doesn't throw with as much crisp and cleanliness, or crisply or as cleanly as a Jeff Neal. So I think that Jeff Neal, being the tighter striker, throwing the straighter punches, is going to have the advantage here against Nico Price, who likes to be a little bit more winging. Big win for Nico Price in his last fight against Tim Means, but Tim Means was doing really well against him there. Unfortunate injury for Tim Means there, but it was caused by a big punch by Nico Price, which kind of put him on Queer Street. And I'm still using Queer Street, so fuck you guys. But I think that Jeff Neal is just too talented here. I don't think that he's going to get caught by anything crazy by Nico Price, and I think that he's going to take advantage and counter very well against Nico Price here too. Might be giving up a little. I believe he's a little bit smaller here too, so 5'11" at 75-inch reach, and then 6 foot at 76-inch reach. So not the biggest difference. Nico Price just is always a long, lanky guy, but Jeff Neal on another planet in terms of skill, especially with the stand-up. I got to go with Jeff Neal here. I really wanted to play him, but minus 340 is just too much for me straight. I'm going to see what the in-the-distance odds look like. I might not go lock of the night deep on it, but I definitely like him to win this fight by knockout. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye on what the in-the-distance odds look like. But I got Jeff Neal. I think it's going to be a barn burner. I truly think it deserves, that third spot on the main card. I think a lot of people are going to be entertained by it, but I think we see Jeff Neal come out victorious. I'm going to say second round knockout. Next up, we got the co-main event. We got Cris Cyborg versus Felicia Spencer. Cris Cyborg coming off a very underwhelming performance against Amanda Nunes, where for some reason, I don't know if she was injured or whatever the fuck was going on, but she went absolutely berserk within that first minute, and Amanda Nunes just stayed composed and was able to find the big shots to put Cyborg out. It was such a weird performance for Cris Cyborg to come out and have a completely reckless, fucking berserk mode type of game plan going in there and trying to finish Amanda Nunes so quickly, whereas she was so much more methodical in her wins against Holly Holm, against Tonya Evinger. That went into the third round. Lena Landsberg even went into the second round. I remember betting the over 1.5 and being like, what the fuck are you doing, Cyborg? Like, ease into this. Amanda Nunes is a fucking monster, and she even bantamweight champion, beat the consensus maybe top 3 woman in the world twice, Valentina Shevchenko. Nunes, it was so fucking surprising to me for Cris Cyborg to be so dumb in that fight. I think she doesn't have as much to worry about in this fight against Felicia Spencer. Felicia Spencer's coming off that win over Megan Anderson. I'm glad I hit that under 1.5. Very easy bet right there. I wish I went a little bit deeper, but regardless, we know Felicia Spencer wants to get this fight to the ground. Her stand-up is not the best. She's going to get absolutely lit up by Cyborg. Even if Cyborg goes berserk mode like she against Amanda Nunes, I don't think that Felicia Spencer has the power to put her out or put her on her butt or anything like that. So I think that Cris Cyborg is definitely a shoo-in to win this fight. I think in the distance as well, because I think that, Felicia Spencer might pull guard or some shit, and then, Justino is a great fucking jiu-jitsu player herself. Ooh. I don't know what that is, but that sounds very deep. I apologize for that, guys. But regardless, we're almost done the episode as well, so let's just fucking get through this. Yeah, like I said, Felicia Spencer wants to get this fight to the ground. I think that Cyborg's jiu-jitsu is good enough to stay out of any trouble when it comes to submissions or anything like that. And I think Felicia just has her work cut out here for her. So for her to pull this victory off, I think she should be a way bigger underdog than she currently is. Plus 425, plus 500-ish. Fuck. Like, I might even be enticed to put Justino in a parlay with somebody because I think that there's no way that she can lose this fight. She is better than Felicia Spencer everywhere. She's stronger than her everywhere. And I think she has nothing to worry about if this fight hits the ground. So I got Chris Cyborg by first round TKO. I think it's not even going to be close either. All right, let's move on to the fucking main event. Max Holloway against Frankie Edgar, long overdue. They were scheduled to fight way back in March of last year. Holloway got injured. In steps Frankie Edgar, and Frankie Edgar gets knocked into the Netherlands by Brian Ortega. Kind of puts a halt to his championship hopes right there. Had to come back quickly. I think it was just over a month and a half against Cub Swanson. Comes in, gets a decision victory, and then now sits out. Supposed to fight actually Korean Zombie back in November at the 25th anniversary fight. Had to pull out of that, and he just finds himself in a fucking title shot against Max Holloway. So Holloway's coming off that loss to Dustin Poirier back in April. That was his opportunity to become champ or interim champ. But he comes up short against Dustin Poirier, who put on a brilliant performance against Holloway. And Holloway took some damage in that fight, man. I was very surprised about how much damage he did take and his ability to come back so quickly as well. This is roughly three-ish months after that fight. So that might play a factor into this. Not 100% sure. I believe that Holloway is the better striker here against Frankie Edgar. I think he'll be able to kind of download Frankie Edgar's data within the first round and have two rounds and then kind of just put it on Edgar. But I'm interested to see how Edgar uses his full arsenal here. How he, uses his footwork, uses his ability or his wrestling at least. I think he might be able to get Max Holloway down maybe once or twice. Maybe not right away. Maybe a little bit deeper into the fight. And we know that Frankie Edgar is always able to go 5-5s. So we don't need to worry about his cardio. Max Holloway, another guy, really good to go 5-5s. And the pace and pressure that he's always able to keep during that time is amazing. So hard for me to parlay Max Holloway at the minus 400-ish odds. But possible bet on Frankie Edgar. Maybe a small 0.5 unit stab. Nothing too crazy. I want to see how crazy his odds do actually get. Plus 325 at 5 dimes right now. The best is plus 340 at Bet Online, plus 336 at Pinnacle. If he hits that plus 400 range, maybe plus 350, I would consider putting like a 0.5 unit bet on him. We saw Uriah Faber come back recently and completely dethrone a guy that was on the up and up. I'm not saying that Max Holloway is, Ricky Simone, but, you got to think that there must have been some sort of impact on Max Holloway and in terms of his confidence as well when he went up against Dustin Poirier and came up short and got beat the fuck up. Let's be honest. He went to a decision, but he got beat the fuck up in that fight. So Frank Edgar, coming off that extended layoff, and then Max Holloway coming off a beating. It's interesting where both of these guys are at in their careers. I'm going to go with Max Holloway. I just think that his striking is too good. I think Frankie Edgar is definitely worth an underdog shot, especially at such long odds, the plus 350-ish. Again, if he gets there, I might bet him. But as a pick, I'm going to have to go with Max Holloway. I think that he brushes off that Dustin Poirier loss. I think that he uses his range. I think that he picks apart Frankie Edgar on the outside, lands big shots, and then maybe finishes him a little bit later, maybe third, fourth round where he starts to push it, like we saw him do against Jose Aldo twice. He did it against Anthony Pettis. He did it against Brian Ortega. I think it all comes down to how well Frankie Edgar's chin is going to be able to hold up. But I think that Max Holloway just outstrikes him, and then we maybe get a fourth round, fifth round finish from Max Holloway, just continuously clipping Frankie Edgar from the outside. I would love nothing more than to see Edgar fucking pull out a victory here and get that 145 belt that he's just been seeking since. When the fuck did he go down? He went down. He went down in 2013 when he went down and fought Jose Aldo for the title. Came up short there. Won 5 straight fights. Fought Jose Aldo again. Came up short there. Won 2 straight victories. Then lost to Brian Ortega. Won with Club Swanson, and now comes back to fight Max Holloway. But I will be going with Max Holloway, 5th round TKO. But I want to see Frankie Edgar win. And I'm not confident enough in terms of parlaying Max Holloway. So in terms of betting advice, that's what my betting advice is for that pick or for that fight. So that's pretty much it for UFC 240. I think I did a decent job. This is going to be a longer episode than normal anyway. At least I think it is. Me and Rob had some good banter at the beginning of the episode, so if you guys skipped that, go back, check it out. I showed him the Dudashev unfortunate situation with him going into ICU and then then unfortunately passing away earlier this morning. What else? Lock of the Night Challenge. That's something that I've introduced since the last episode. It's been getting a lot of good traction. I got a lot of people who have already signed up for it. I got a lot of people that are still interested in it. I'll just quickly break it down for you guys. Starting with UFC Newark, which is the event after UFC 240. I'm starting the Lock of the Night Challenge. You're pretty much using my strategy to try and win as much units as possible between now and the end of the year. Whoever has the most profit at the end of that wins the pot. So right now we have a $25 buy-in game and we have a $100 buy-in game. And whoever wins 65%. First place gets 65% of the pot. Second place, I believe, gets 20% of the pot or 25% of the pot. And the last third place runner-up, whatever you want to call it, gets 10%. So I think that's roughly at least your buy-in back. So check it out, man. I'm going to do it for the entire calendar year of 2020. But I just wanted to get it out for these last four months of the year. It gives me a good way to test it out, make sure I'm running it properly. If there's any errors that I run into, I know how to fix it. And then when we do the 2021, we'll have a full year. I'll have all my I's dotted and my T's crossed. But I truly think that you guys are going to have a lot of fun with it. And the opportunity to win some more money using my method, go for it. Like, let's fucking do it. I'm not a part of the contest. I don't want to be eventually, accused of tampering of any sort. I don't want to even have the potential to deal with something like that. So I'm not going to be a part of any of these contests. I'm strictly moderating and running them. I'll be updating the standings after every event, latest by the Sunday noon after the fight. And just keeping on top of it, processing all the bets, putting out all the bets once the event has started, and just being the main point of contact for this Lock of the Night Challenge. But I think it's something that you guys will have a lot of fun with. And if you truly believe that you guys can do a Lock of the Night type of thing, by all means, let's do it. Let's get into this contest, see if you can come out in first place and make some money while doing it as well. So I believe we have $500 in the pot for the $100 game right now and about $175 or $200 in the $25 game. So hit me up at MMA Lockcast on Twitter. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me and try to sign up for this. Or if you guys just want to talk shit, just fucking comment below. Don't really give a fuck about the haters. I know there's a couple people that have been hating on the last video. Don't give a shit. I get enough. My subscribers continues to go up. I'm getting great views. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback even on Twitter. So fuck all the haters. Don't give a fuck about you. That's pretty much it. I'm done. It's fucking 7:30. I gotta get my ass home. I got shit to do. All right. All right. Like, subscribe. Fucking do whatever you're doing on every audio platform that's out there. YouTube. Appreciate the support. You guys are the fucking best. I'll see you guys next week. Also, sorry, last thing. Combatisseurs. Supposed to be this week. Unfortunately, Rob's headed out of town. We're not able to record it, so we're going to be back next week for the Combatisseurs. It's been a little bit, but I promise you that's not going anywhere. We're going to be fucking doing that regularly. Unfortunately, just scheduling issues at this point. But we will be back on Wednesday next week to do the Combatisseurs with Tony. But I will be back on Monday of next week, latest Tuesday, depending on scheduling, Monday or Tuesday, to do the UFC Newark Lock-Cast for you guys and break down those fights. So keep your eyes on my Twitter at MMA Lockcast for what bets I'm going to be making this week, as well as the website www.mmalockcast.ca. And lastly, make sure you guys hit me up if you guys want to be a part of the Lock of the Night Challenge. Love that contest. Can't wait to keep it rolling. But that's about it. I got to shut the fuck up because I got to go. All right. Peace. I'm out.